in the chat. Let's add James to the show of Bangernomics. James, how are you, sir?
I'm extremely well, thank you.
Good, good. James, whereabouts in the world are you?
I'm in Norfolkshire. I'm in
Norfolkshire.
Norfolkshire. I'm in God's own county of Norfolkshire. It's not as flat as people think. There's plenty of hills, so it's a good place to be. There's not many speed cameras around here.
Anywhere near Norwich?
Yeah, about 25 miles away.
Oh dear. I don't
But
like
yeah, I'm pretty
Norwich.
much. Yeah, that's right. I'm very much in the countryside.
Norwich is like a leftist liberal hellhole. You know, I had the misfortune of actually speaking there. I once organised a rally for Brexit there, and basically it was like to see Brexit. Clive Lewis was out, bloody the fire brigades union were out. Norwich is just, in no offence, but in my opinion, a bit of a hellhole now, as many of our cities are.
Yeah, it is, yeah, that's right. I mean, it is a university city, and yeah, you see all the signs up when you drive in. When I used to drive in more regularly than I do now, because yeah, driving into any built-up area is not much fun anymore. But yeah, you are right. But on the outskirts, it's all farmers and real people who, uh, are very, very solid and probably very staunch UNN listeners as well, I should think.
Well, I would hope so. There's not enough of them, but hey ho,
No.
it is what it is. So, James, tell us a bit about your background, please, and what it is you get up to.
Right. I suppose from the motoring side, I mean, I come from London, lived in London for half my life, worked in London, used to drive into London to work. I was a car salesman for a couple of years. I worked at BMW in Park Lane. It was probably the best job you can ever have in the 1980s. It was an awful lot of fun. I made a lot of money, and it opened my eyes as well, because I would come across people who had cars which depreciated. I mean, it put me off ever buying a brand new car. I've never bought a brand new car ever, and I never would, because depreciation is the biggest killer. So I saw that firsthand. I saw people lose lots of money on cars. There's a finite sort of life in the motor trade. There are no retirement parties as such, because eventually you don't sell enough cars and you get thrown on the streets. I thought, well, I'll enjoy myself. I did it for a few years. Great job, earned money. And I thought, right, I really like writing and informing people. I wrote a book called Dealing with Car Dealers, and that explained, and that's my only best-selling book ever. And that came out in 1987, and it explained how the motor trade works, margins and VAT write-backs and all the sorts of things, and to arm the purchaser, me and you, when we go into a showroom, all the tips and wrinkles you would need to get the best deal on a car. So that's what I did, and that led me into writing for newspapers and magazines. I've done scripts for telly. I've done lots of books and stuff like that. So that's essentially what I've done for the last sort of 40 odd years, I suppose. Yeah, I write about. I'm at the wrong end of the motor trade. I'm at the arse end of the motor trade, really. Right, cannot hear you at all. I've turned you up. I can't. Yeah.
Hear me now? Hear me now?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, hear you now.
Okay. Well, and it is amazing, and it's amazing that we're having this conversation here in 2023. That and the thing about the motor car, and sometimes we like to look back on, the videos of when motorways were first built.
Yeah.
And then they built service stations, and a Sunday routine was people would go and they would drive, and it was such a liberating thing for people. And I talk about this regardless of what you think of communism or fascism. Well, and I know they're not exactly great systems, but even their ideologies were that people should like try and get a car and give them personal freedom, even like under the most brutal regimes. It was seen as a reward, whereas now, like they don't want you having a car. They hate cars. They hate you having any individual autonomy whatsoever.
Absolutely correct, David. I actually, another thing I do, I run Free Car Mag, which is probably the only free car mag in the world. And one of the covers I did a couple of years ago was "At least the commies didn't bang cars." I had a picture. I had a picture of a Skoda with a happy couple beneath it, and and that just summed it up for me. In that,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, you might have had a 5 or 10 year wait to get your Trabant, but which was a truly terrible car. But
Yeah.
that was what they lived on. Is that one day we can have freedom. And if you go to places like Hungary as well, who had a terrible time during the war, and then after the war they had to become communists. And one of the things again there is about the freedom that a car gave them.
Yeah.
They will tell you that. They will tell you how liberating, as you quite rightly say, they could get away. They could get away from their
Yeah.
horrible jobs at the weekend and go somewhere in the country.
And it is amazing again to think that, like, even you know, National Socialism with the Volkswagen, communism with the Trabant or the Lada, even these regimes that were supposedly had the most tight control, they were comfortable with the plebs having access to a vehicle. Whereas, like our rulers now, your World Economic Forum types, they hate the even idea that you can jump in a car. They just, that's how much control they want over your life.
Absolutely, that's what's happened. But we've allowed it to happen, and certainly what's happened in the last 2 to 3 years has emboldened them. They've realised that they can tell us what to do, and the majority of people go along like nodding dogs. And I think that's the most worrying thing about all this.
I mean, the thing is, like, I'm not anti-public transport. I think a good public transport system is a good thing. You know, like when you're in big cities, it's good. But again, it's like as well, like well, first of all, James, why do you think they're doing it? Why the attack on cars? What? Because it is visible, and you know, up here where I am, I don't know how it is where you are. The roads are terrible. Like, see the roads now, and I think especially in the west of Scotland where you have a lot of frost, so it'll rain and then it'll freeze, and that really cracks up the roads. The potholes are horrendous. Why do you think they're doing it? What is the reason behind the attacks on motorists?
Well, they are doing it because they can. I would also like to make the point that that my main issue, that a lot of people making these policies do not live where I live. They don't live where there is no public transport whatsoever. If you want a job, you want to go to school, you want to socialise, you have to drive. There is no other way. I can stand outside my house all day long. There will never be a bus go past. And so lots of people where I live absolutely could not function without a car. And that also means young people. Again, you see loads of surveys which are obviously conducted in the middle of London where they go, oh, young people, they don't need to drive, they don't need a car. Well, yeah, maybe in London, but out here, it's the first thing that most youngsters want to do. At 17, they really need a car, or they'll have to, there's schemes where you can rent a moped, but they need that to get to work, to stack a shelf so that some middle-class person can go and buy their stuff in the supermarket. And this is what they never, ever get. Any of these people, all the people making this policy live in the wrong place. They don't live amongst us. They don't live amongst the real people.
Yeah, and I mean, I think if you're not living in I mean, again, it's part of the wider WEF agenda that they want you in that 15-minute city, you know, and like, as you say, like, I just couldn't survive without my car, and not everybody wants to live in a city. Some people like living in the countryside.
Yeah, absolutely. That's it. But as you say, yes, it's the World Economic Forum. I know all the UNN listeners are fully on board with it, but it's one of those things that when you actually tell people to go and look at what they're aiming to do, it's all written out. It's all there. And it's been there for such a long time. And it's also, when I wrote my book Demotorized, it was really the 2030 UN agenda. And so it's all coming to pass because all the people in political positions all agree with it. Again, the problem we have is there is no voice for us. There is no sensible person. The creation of all this nonsense is politicians. From beginning to end, they're not very bright at all. They really are really thick, and this is how we ended up CO2 is bad. Oh,
you just lost you a wee bit, James. I don't know whether it's the signal's gone a wee bit or.
Okay.
That's fine. That's fine. I don't know whether it's your maybe turn off the camera, see if that helps, or go out and come back in. I'm sure James will join us shortly. It's actually really interesting stuff. James, are you there, sir?
I am still here. It seems to be working.
Yeah, I can hear you.
I can stop the cam if you think that helps. Okay.
As long
yeah, I mean, basically, politicians were told CO2. Shall I stop the cam? Shall I do that?
Yeah, stop the cam. See if that helps. No, I'm not saying you're ugly or anything like that, James. You know, I'm not saying you're ugly or anything. You know, but I'm only joking. I'm only joking. You're rocking that beard, James. You're rocking that beard. You look like a man from Norfolk.
David, right? The problem was politicians, right? They are told CO2 bad. Now, this is something it's very, very difficult to interview anyone about. No one can explain. CO2, as all UNN listeners will know and viewers, it's a naturally occurring gas. It's 0.4 of the atmosphere. So I don't know why I have to repeat this or you have to repeat it to people. But so you just think, where is the problem? Okay, so we were told that's a problem. And so what they did is they looked and they saw that diesel puts out very little CO2. So there was a light bulb moment for the politicians where they go, okay, right, so let's have diesel. So that's the problem.
That's right.
We ended up with lots of diesel cars and then we're told, no, diesel is bad because there's lots of other particulates. So what we did, so the way we've ended up with electric cars is someone's gone, you do realize, Mr. Politician, that these are zero emissions. And they've gone, really? Oh, well, we'd better have them. So that's how we got here. They never spoke to anybody who knew anything, anybody who could challenge them. And so we've just gone down this route on the terrible many people because it suits their lifestyles and their jobs to actually go along with that. And I would include, unfortunately, the profession that I'm part of, which is the media. The media is completely and utterly swallowed it whole.
My opinion, I'm sure is one you'll share, and most of us is that I mean, it's a total scam, and what it basically is global communism. And the reason they use CO2 emissions is they couldn't do it based on how much money we've had or money we've earned. So they can do it on CO2, and they say, well, if you've produced X amount of CO2, it means you've ruined the world, whereas those poor people in that country haven't. Therefore, you have to be punished, and they don't. It's the only way they can do a mass wealth transfer to these countries and to that supranational elite. Because, as a lot of people are pointing out, James, that is true. When you look at Davos, they're all driving around in chauffeur-driven cars there. You know, they're all still going in them.
Absolutely, that's it. It is hypocrisy from beginning to end, which, you know, we the little people are not allowed to, you know, have some freedom.
No.
And it's been done on so many levels. It's been done with. I mean, basically, we won't be able to go away on holiday soon. That's going to be banned. But certainly, they see this as a very easy win, which is stopping people driving cars. But what we've had the long march through the institutions, so that young people have been convinced that they are going to die if people don't stop driving cars, and it's a complete fallacy and ridiculous. Now, I'm extremely old, David. I've been driving since the 1970s, and I remember being told then, you do realise fuel's going to run out, and oil's going to run out, or was it going to be a nice day? Is it going to be this, that, and the other? And of course, none of it has ever come to pass. And again, people keep producing this evidence, and nobody shows it again.
I remember that there was the big one when I was a wee boy. I grew up in the 80s. Was the oil shock, like Mad Max? You know, that was the big thing, that we're going to run out of oil, and the world's we're all going to like that. That was the big thing. And look, here we are, 2023. Never happened. You know, there's still plenty of oil out there.
One of the biggest frauds, there was a phrase that you probably remember called peak oil.
Yeah, yeah.
And that it will never come to pass. We have hundreds and thousands of years. Who knows? I don't think anybody can satisfactorily explain where oil comes from, but it just bubbles up out of the ground. So whilst it's doing that, we might as well make the most of it. Strangely enough, because of the fracking debate, which sort of exploded just before Christmas, I found a blog I did for a motoring magazine 10 years ago, where I said, I think we should be fracking for gas, because we can run cars on gas, because that will be our own gas and it will be cheaper. So all these things have completely gone, and there is no platform for common sense, really. There's a lot, there are radio stations that say they are. I don't think they are. I think they're part of the mainstream media. They're not like UNN, willing to call it like it is. And unfortunately, the majority of people, if you speak to them about these subjects, they have no clue, because all they listen to is the BBC.
Yeah, yeah, and that really is the frightening thing, and I think we're all very guilty of forgetting that. I mean,
Yeah.
we've actually got good numbers on. We've got 525 on, which is great for a live on a Monday night. But it's not the 525,000 that tune into the news, and they don't realise they're being bombarded with the propaganda, with everything. What's your take on electric cars, James?
They're a very bad idea. They're basically the gateway drug to no cars whatsoever.
Okay.
They're very, very bad. They're deliberately bad in many ways. I mean, why on earth would you have an electric car? I'll tell you, you were retired, you could plug it in, and you could just use it for shopping. Then it may make some sort of sense. But for the majority of us, for someone who has to work for a living, has to make 6 calls a day, on having meetings around the country and doing important stuff, and earning money for themselves, an electric car is a very stupid way to go about that. Again, it's a way that will get us out of our cars. They are furiously expensive. I think all the arguments I'd like to think everybody is aware of now. Mining them. Trying to get all the components for the batteries, we will never ever be able to mine enough. I mean, people go on about fossil fuels. Well, you have to mine stuff in order to make a battery car work. They're extremely heavy. Their range drops. There is at least one car magazine actually this month has done a winter test, and the claim mileages as against the winter mileages is 100 miles knocked off at least in most cases. So as soon as you put the aircon on, as soon as you put the lights on, as soon as you put a radio on, you're using, extra electricity. And also there's a finite life. And this is something no one speaks about at all. Once you get past 80% of the battery life, then that's it. The car's over. You have to buy a new battery, and that is furiously expensive. And this is even with hybrid cars. So even cars which stupidly have 2 engines, and it sort of makes some sort of sense, but in another way it doesn't, because they're overcomplicated. But if you have to replace the hybrid system in any way, again, that's like 20 grand. And so with a car that's 6, 7, 8 years old, you're just going to chuck it in the bin. It just isn't worth it.
And I think as well, like, I am not a big car guy, but I admire nice vehicles. Like I've been to like days and I've driven a Lamborghini Gallardo, and I mean, it's just an incredible experience. It is. It's an awesome experience, and I've driven a Ferrari, and they are incredible vehicles. But again, though, that's one side of it. But it really is the aspect that once upon a time, you could go and you could get like a banger as your Bangernomics. You could go and get something, and that would give you the freedom. You could drive anywhere in the country. You could go anywhere, and that sense of not answering to anyone or being responsible. And the other thing they're wanting to bring in is kill switches. I think there kill switches in Teslas, aren't there, James?
Yes, there are. Yeah, that's right. Because people couldn't actually charge them in America. Quite recently, you can get locked out of them. You can not get upgraded if you haven't paid a certain amount. So that is quite a terrifying aspect that people don't allow for. And there is a very real possibility that your car could get could get controlled via someone, with the with the power to control your vehicle. There's quite a famous case, and it was in 2014, which shows you how long ago it is. I do detail it in my book. There was a whistleblower in some company, and his car was actually taken over and driven into a tree. It's quite well documented. Yeah, absolutely. I can find all the details for you and send it to you, but that was reported in major proper news outlets. There was no other way. There was also an experiment conducted with a Jeep by some journalists in 2016, when they actually managed to remotely control a Jeep, which is a fairly old car now, from from the 2000s, and they could control the brakes, they could control the steering, they could control the acceleration. So it is possible to do that. So if anybody tells you that's scaremongering or anything like that, I mean, what I've learned anyway, in the last few years, is that every conspiracy theory is probably correct.
One of our good contributors, Tina's in the chat, and she makes an excellent point. The state could kill dissidents very easily then. Yeah, 100%. If they totally hackable, they and it isn't being paranoid. And James, you obviously know your stuff here, and it's really, really interesting. But you're one of the very few that still stands up for the old school cars. Why has so much of the industry just acquiesced to it? Why have they gone along with it? Because, like, are you going to be able to have, like, will Ferrari still be able to make cars in 10 years, electric cars, and sell them the way they're selling them?
Well, all of these are big companies. So again, when it comes to the World Economic Forum, it's quite interesting to look down the list. There's quite a few car companies that are members of the WEF. I think you'll find Ford, I think you'll find VW, I think you'll find Toyota there. So they are all on board with this. What car manufacturers want, they don't want you to own a car anymore. They want you to rent a car, because there's far more money in that. So yeah, the cars that I like, really simple cars which can be fixed, which will pretty much run forever, could be sort of outlawed. That's the terrifying thing. I'm very lucky. I'm in my garage. I've got 3 cars here, and none of them are taxable. They're all classic cars, and I'm quite happy about that. And I will drive very long distances in them. I'm quite happy with them. If they break, you can usually get the part fairly quickly to repair them. They will, there isn't any reason. I mean, it's, again, what I do is Bangernomics, and that's makes me happy. But the problem is, the downside could be, is that tomorrow the government go, yeah, those classic cars are great. We're going to let you drive it once a month to one of those silly meetings you do in a field, and the rest of the time you can't use it, and you have to pay us £100 a year. And there wouldn't be anything that I could actually do about that, because again, they would do it on the basis, well, we're saving the planet, we're taking your nasty smelly old car off the road.
Well, it's like, because that kind of dovetails perfectly into like ULEZ, and then you've got these 15-minute cities, and that really has just kind of erupted recently, hasn't it? These 15-minute cities, and that really is just another lockdown by stealth, isn't it?
It is. I mean, all we want the local authority and the local council to do is to empty the bins and fix the potholes. And they're not very good at either of those jobs. And what they're trying to do, they're trying to socially engineer us. And they do seem to be able to get away with it. I can't believe that Sadiq Khan can, on a whim, decide I'm going to spread the all-les zone out to the outer reaches. Right. I have members of my family who are, they're on the extreme edge of London, and basically, if they turn out of their drive, they go left, they pay £12.50. They go right, they don't. It's as simple as that. There is a lot of there's pushback to an extent. I mean, when it comes to writing positions and letters and stuff, I don't know how well that works. You really need people on the streets. That does seem to be happening. Yeah. I think there's been quite a movement in Oxford.
There has
about it, and that's what we need to see a lot more of. People have got to get actually fairly angry. They've really got to show that because I just find so many people just shrug their shoulders and just go, yeah, well, that's the way things are going, and they're not prepared to stand up for it, because, as you say, eventually we won't be able to go anywhere or do anything, and it'll be our fault.
No, and like, again, I talk about this a lot. This is neo-feudalism. This is the first time, I think, probably since the Dark Ages, that the powers that be are actually trying to regress humanity. Like if you look at, like, say since the Reformation, right? That was all about teaching people to read, teaching, get education. Then you had the Renaissance as well, which was incredible, in art and everything. And then you came into the 20th century, the Industrial Revolution. Then you had the IT revolution, and I remember the hope that we had in the 90s. Whereas now here we are, 2023, and it really is a case of get back in your box and shut it. And we don't want you going on holiday. We don't want you traveling anywhere. And like, this is the frustrating thing, is so few people realize it. And what really gets me, James, and I'm sure you'll be the same, is the way all this sort of very public sector middle class have all been bought off. Like, they can afford a 60, 70 grand car. They can afford to pay these holidays, and they're all earning a 6-figure salary. But they're the ones I hate the most, because they're the ones that stay silent.
They do, absolutely. I mean, what I don't want to be confronted by a grandchild in a few years' time who'll say to me, "So what did you do when they took our cars away?" And I want to be able to say, well, at least I put up a fight. And I think that's what everybody should realize. This is one of the most serious, as you say, one of the most serious points of the 21st century, maybe even the 20th. They really are coming for everything that we stand for.
Yep, and someone says, I did just do 2 mini breaks to Berlin and Rome, and that's right. And the only reason I did it was because flights are cheap. Like, but you're going to get to a stage where it's going to be unaffordable. Like, a 50, 60 quid flight will again cost you 600-700 quid, and no one can afford that. And like, I just think it's so vile. It really, really is, because the upward surge of humanity was people aspiring to get a better life, to have that bit of choice, to be able to do it. And to see that being taken away, especially from young people, as you say, James, like, so many of these young people have this death cult. They've fallen for all that Greta Thunberg shite, and they don't want to have a car. They don't want to have children. They don't want to travel abroad because they think they're damaging the world.
No, that's it. Absolutely and precisely. It's all it's looking grim. I never really want to be sort of down about it. I'd like to think there are organisations. There's the Alliance of British Drivers. There's the Fair Fuel people. There's the Motorcycle Action Group. They all do things, and maybe more people should join them. So there are people speaking positively, but it's trying to get the message through, because the majority of people that you speak to think all of this is a terrible idea, especially the ultra low emission zones. But the problem is, it's a tiny number of people making this decision. As you say, it's the technocratic class which seem to have all of the power. But yet, when faced with the majority of people, it doesn't make any sense at all. So we've really got to push back against this as much as possible.
So someone just put in the chat, this is hilarious. Fuel is so expensive you can't even afford to run cyclists over. Brilliant. And it's like, where my sister stays in Glasgow, they've just installed these cycle lanes. Have you ever been up to the west of Scotland, James?
I have, yeah, absolutely.
Up to Glasgow now.
Yeah.
Did it rain by any chance when you were
Strangely
here?
Strangely enough, it has rained the several times that I've been there. But
so nobody ever uses these cycle lanes ever. Like, it drives me, and like, they cost a fortune and nobody uses them.
No, that's it. You can see lots of pictures online. I think they've been taking over some pavements, actually. It may be in London, it may be some other major conurbation where, half of the pavement has gone because that's now a cycle lane. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And certainly the government used the 2 years of so-called lockdown, it's a phrase that I hate using, as their chance. And Grant Schnaps at the time said, more people are riding bikes, so that's what we have to do. We have to build more cycle lanes. I don't think it's anything that anybody ever asked for. I think the funniest things again online is when you see people with cargo bikes and they're delivering a fridge or something. So they're delivering a fridge. with a cargo bike.
Yeah,
You just think to yourself, yeah,
like I think it's important, as I've pointed out. Look, good public transportation and cyclists feeling safe. But again, this is the other thing is as well. Like they encourage people to cycle in the centre of London. See the amount of videos you watch where people get like killed. I mean, it's horrendous. You know, I mean, I know it's good to cycle, etc. But would you cycle in central London with trucks? And I mean, you see the footage of them, and they get killed. It's horrible.
No, I think there is a very good case for separating people out, which is the way that it used to be. Is okay. I went to China in the early 1990s, and actually that was full of cyclists. But since then, there's lots and lots of cars. They just do not mix at all.
No, they
it's
don't.
very, very difficult.
Again, that's the thing is, look, it's not being anti-cyclist,
no,
but if
it
you're in
isn't.
a car, if you're in a car and you hit a cyclist, there's only going to be one winner, you know, and that's why it's just, but the thing is as well though, it's not organic. Like you're being forced to do it. You know, it's not like there's organically thousands of people out there cycling.
No,
and the government is then filling the gap for that. They are trying to create a demand which simply doesn't exist.
That's precisely it. We are going backwards as a society, and we're going backwards in technical terms. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. The unfortunate thing about cycling, I mean, I've got the same bike that I bought in 1972, which just shows you how long I keep things. And that's great, and I will use that to go down to the post office and stuff like that. But I'm not going to go on a big long ride. I mean, I see cyclists on A roads, but I actually find motorists and lorry drivers in particular are extremely cautious and very, very respectful of their space.
Yep.
But that causes a massive tailback. There's a near to me, there's a roundabout. It's an A road, extremely busy. It's called the A47, which people may know. There's an incline. I've seen cyclists stay on the A47 instead of just pulling off and thinking, well, I'll just walk. I'll go. Yeah, they will stay. They will stay there. There's a 2 mile tailback behind them, and that makes no sense whatsoever. So I would hope.
My big bugbear is when it's groups out cycling and they're having conversations and they're like 4 abreast. That's my big bugbear. And look, see, at the end of the day, it's all being forced down your throat. If somebody wants to cycle, fine, that's their choice. I'm perfectly happy with that. But it's not about that. It's you are being told what to do. And it's not real, and they're not living by the rules themselves. Have you ever seen a brilliant film, James, called Equilibrium with Christian Bale?
Yes, I have, absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, I mean, we talk about that a lot in here. It's such a brilliant film because that's all about you take this medication to not feel, but then the people at the very top doing, you know, they're not getting on their bikes, and even if they do, it's just for a photo shoot. Like Sadiq Khan gets driven about in a bloody Range Rover.
That's right. I think there's possibly more than one Range Rover.
That's
isn't
right,
there,
a
when he
fleet
goes
of Range
out?
Rovers.
Yeah. So that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. But it's a good job that we've got our They Live glasses. If you like films, David, there's a very good film called They Live, and if you put the glasses on, you can see the bad people. Take the glasses off, and they look normal. And I think that's the sort of society that we're living in at the moment.
Yeah. Listen, James, you're obviously a pretty switched on guy. I've really enjoyed tonight, and thanks very much for getting in touch.
It's a pleasure.
How can people, if they want to find out more about you, I've been putting your Twitter link in the chat. How can they support you, find out more about your work and everything that you're doing?
Okay, thank you very much, David. Yeah, I have a magazine called Free Car Mag. It's free, and it's also now called free, really, because it's free to think. We're one of the few car magazines that sort of does funny memes and stuff, including about Sadiq Khan. I had somebody congratulate me on one today. So you can go to Free Car Mag. There's lots of stuff there, freecarmag.com. Also, Bangernomics.com. There is free stuff to download. If anybody wants to ask me a question about buying a car, recommendations and what to look for and stuff, then please just get in touch. I will reply to everybody. And if you buy a book in the meantime, that's lovely, but you don't have to.
I'm just looking at your Twitter feed, and I mean, you're obviously a very a sort of a quirky. I don't like using the words. How would I try and use it? Like a character. I think it's fair to say, and we need more characters. And while I'm thinking about you, James, as well,
Yeah.
do you think like the way sort of like Top Gear was wokeified, like Clarkson, Hammond, and May, like they were really going after? Do you think that's part of the wider attack on? Because Top Gear, like that's just it's gone now. Well, do they still have it?
No, well, they do, don't they? But they have it with people that nobody cares about, really. It's sort of a facsimile copy of what Top Gear used to be.
Yeah.
But again, as you said, what they do is they take the joy out of everything.
They do.
The left basically make nothing enjoyable. You can't enjoy a thing. And that's what we want to bring back, isn't it? To everything in life, we want to have a laugh. We want to be with our families and have a good time. But in the meantime, we've just got to stop all this nonsense going on.
Yeah, we really do, and we need more people. I know James Delingpole, he does a great job as well, and it just is so frustrating. I mean, and just a final point, what will it take, James? What will it take because look, under COVID, we did get a lot of people on the streets. We got millions out in London. We got people out across the country. We did a lot of work with the yellow boards. We mobilized. However, we're in this sort of hiatus. What's it going to take to get people to stand up and say, look, I'm sick of this? What do you think will be the tipping point?
I don't know. What we've let happen is cameras. We've allowed automatic number plate recognition cameras happen. We are one of the most surveyed camera nations in the world. It's disgraceful. There is no reason for it at all. It doesn't make us safer. Crime hasn't gone down because we had them. Motoring isn't any safer because of it. And I would not recommend that people do this, but I would like to think that maybe in the future someone might get rid of those things.
And one thing I've just actually remembered as well, and some people have forgotten about, is the joy of driving in a car with a young lady to some place very, very quiet, and then getting your tongue out and having a nice lick of an ice cream. I'm sure a lot of us have done that when we've been younger, haven't we, James?
Really?
As a rite of passage, a lot of good fun in the gold cars. James, absolute pleasure, sir. Please keep in touch, okay? Cheers, James. I think the signal's gone, so we'll speak to you later. Cheers, mate.
I will do. Thank you, David.
Bye-bye. Brilliant. Thanks. Bye-bye. Really, really great conversation. Really, really enjoyed that. Made